Buddy Keith Buswell, thanks for joining me. If you remember my last video, if you happen to have watched it, I was doing a little bit of thing that we used to do at CrowdStrike called Cool Query Friday, and essentially just took a query, ran it through our Ollie engine here, and just said, "Hey, go convert this query." I just kind of wanted to see how far it would get for me. So that was a fun exercise. But one of the things that I've been doing more of lately is looking at some of the different, just kind of content creators that I know and respect, and just looking at some of the different just new things that they're seeing inside of the industry, avoiding EDRs, different ways of getting access to environments, lateral movement, and things like that. And one of the ones that I've been watching is an old coworker of mine, Brian Allman. Fantastic channel. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and bring this over here really quick. So the weekly purple team. So one of the things I'll do is I'll post a link to this inside of my video here. An absolute must to subscribe to. Just fantastic video, great content. Highly recommend watching that video. But what I wanted to do was do a little bit of a repeat of what he did inside of here, and essentially just kind of go look for myself. One of the things that was brought up in Brian's video was essentially, if we go take a look here, dark space security released essentially what looks at some that can harvest credentials and essentially hooking into the run as mechanism. So, and what you're going to see with that is that it's writing to an alternate data stream log file for the user's desktop INI file, and being able to kind of go see what username, what passwords were used inside of there. Really hard to detect is what it looked like, and I kind of want to go see that for myself. And what I'm going to do for today is I have instrumented a Windows box just kind of through the roof with all kinds of different things. So I'm just want to go repeat that a little bit, kind of show you what I was noticing inside of there, and see if maybe there's some alternate ways that we could potentially detect it as well. So let's go ahead and drag this back over. And what I want to do is just jump inside of my observe tenant. And I'm going to give you a little bit of the lay of the land here. So I took the dark space security repo, and I grabbed all that, compiled the code, and one of the things that I just kind of want to highlight inside of here is that I wasn't trying to get around EDR. I wasn't trying to bypass detection. I'm just running the code straight from the box inside of here. So that wasn't necessarily my goal. In Brian's video, he was able to run it remotely and kind of download the payload and execute and bypass EDR. I will let you know, when I ran this locally, it for sure detected it was detected by the EDR on my platform. So at least that was good. So I went and disabled those because I wanted to kind of replicate the fact of like, hey, it wasn't detected. Now what? So I'm logged in with local admin on this box here, and I'm running this injector.exe, and you can say I'm doing a RunAsStealer on here. So when you go ahead, when you run as, and then you switch to some type of an admin account, essentially hijacking those credentials. So what I have done was ran that code on my Windows box here, and I went and logged in with a separate account on another login over here. So we can go and take a look, and we can see Rick James is logged in here. And matter of fact, you can see that I've already kind of ran this, but what I'm gonna do is we'll go ahead and close this out and give you a little demonstration. So basically I'm saying go ahead and run as, I'm using Rick James's admin account. We wanna launch cmd.exe. Go ahead and bring that. Go ahead and drop in our creds, and we have now command.exe running over here. So that's essentially, kind of what you're seeing inside of there. So I found some interesting things with this, and to Brian's point, what he was seeing with his lab, spot on. Very hard to detect, and I kind of want to walk you through why this is so hard to detect, and like kind of like how do you know it's so hard to detect? What have you tried exactly? So when I come back over here to my admin box, what I want to do is I want to show you what we're running here. So I have my observe agent installed in this box, and the observe agent is essentially just a fork of the open telemetry collector. And out of the box, when you deploy this agent, we're going to be grabbing the normal things: system, security, and application. However, I have some additional configs that I like to bring in as well, just to add in a little bit more coverage. And so what I did is I have this override file inside of here, and I'm saying I also want to go grab PowerShell. I'm going to go grab PowerShell operational. We're going to go grab our task scheduler logs and also sysmon. And Brian called out sysmon is absolutely paramount to have. And kind of as mentioned, you don't need to bring it in to a SIM or anything like that. And on our platform, Observe is more of like just a large data platform, more of like that kind of security data lake that you would use. So got to be a bit more cost effective. But even with that, depending on your profile and your config that you run, it can be really noisy. So not even maybe if like just cost concerns, just because do I really need this much noise? So it's important to run pretty squared away configs with sysmon as well. And then over here you can just see I'm just saying, hey, go out or just these are my pipelines in my exporters set up inside of here. So with that, I have a pretty robust policy on here, just from a logging policy and bringing in various different things inside of here. So what I want to do is let's go first, just go see like what Brian was doing, and basically let's go kind of go look at that in the first place. So let's go jump back into our lab here, and we'll come over here to logs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to Windows logs, and in this particular policy that I'm running, I'm kind of lumping all of my Windows logs together, whether it's sysmon or if it's Windows security logs or kind of all the things. I'm just kind of lumping them together inside of here. But what I could do is just so, and I triggered this a while ago. So let's go dig this up. Let's just say the last 24 hours, go bring back a bit of data. And then we're going to go filter down to, let me see here. We got our sysmon. Go ahead and apply that. And then it was the event ID 11. So I'm just going to go show this filter only. And then essentially the big thing that we wanted to look for was in the message, is I'm just going to go into the message field here. The message was like desktop.ini log. I must have ran it a little bit longer ago. Let's go back last 2 days ago. Oh, you know what? Man, that's silly. Spelling helps. Oh, there we are. I'm going to say that should come back for us. There we go. So you can see right here, I ran this in yesterday right around 9:30. So let's go ahead and go and zoom in on that. So here is the event itself. So we can see the image RunAs.exe, the target file name desktop.ini. So that was an event ID 11. So that's going to be that write or file write event. Doing these things. One of the things that I particularly found when I was doing this was I only saw this happen once. Now, if there's multiple accounts that are going to be doing RunAs, which there will in any typical domain, but if this has been running, essentially this RunAs executable, if it had been running in your environment for a while and you didn't have sysmon already running in your environment, one of the things that I found is even when I deployed sysmon, because I stopped it for a little bit just to kind of go see what I would find, is what I found is that I only saw this event the one time, and that was when the user first did the run as command. It went and wrote off to the desktop.ini file and created that alternate data stream. I only saw it the single time, and every repeated time I went and did a run as after that, I never saw the event ID 11 ever again. So it seemed really important, just from my research that I was doing, that you really wanted sysmon early on to be able to detect this, because once the file was written, it never wrote it again. You never really saw another event ID 11. So if you went and deployed sysmon later, you would actually never be able to really kind of see this was happening. And I wanted to test that out a little bit and see, hey, is there another way that I could detect this happening if I deployed, let's say, sysmon at a later time, and this had already been running inside of my environment for a while. So what I did is essentially I said, well, let's go ahead and remove event ID 11 from the equation right here and just look for desktop.ini. And what I found was that there is actually two other sysmon event IDs that led me to find that this was happening inside of the environment if the file was already created. And these are the event ID 15. So looking at sysmon and the event ID 15s, these are file create stream hashes. So basically when you're, you can kind of give it a read here, but when you're doing kind of like download events and things like that, or you can even see like browser downloads, you're going to be, have an opportunity at this time to look at these. And when I go open this up here and go take a look at these, you'll go ahead and see image file RunAs.exe. You can see that it's writing desktop.ini.log file, and it's showing me all of the credentials that I used as well. So you can see I even had a typo inside of here. So it's literally logging everything that I was doing. But essentially, yes, this was the username. So ricktimes.admin account, hack this box bane 1. That was the password that I used. So this actually gave me another opportunity to detect this, even if it had been running for a while. So just to kind of piggyback off of Brian's recommendation in this one is that, yeah, 100% that we're going to want to look for these Windows Event IDs 11s. But also, if you wanted to, I think a good opportunity here would be also to leverage these Event ID 15s, and then that way go take a look at those because maybe the file's already been written inside of the environment. So that was just another nice find when I was looking at this one. And I came in back here and I reran this 15 days or last 30 days because I ran this a few times in my environment. And if you go take a look here, I only had the single Event ID 11, but I had multiple 15s for every subsequent run that was after that. So just a nice little find inside of there. So maybe a couple different techniques or things that you can piggyback off there for this particular detection. Now, I don't think I want to trigger off every Windows Event ID 15, but as Brian mentioned as well, you probably don't want to do the same thing with Windows Event ID 11, very specifically if you see something writing to desktop INI log. So what I would do probably in something like this is that I could just say, come up, create an actions, let's go create a monitor, and that's going to take it to our monitor page. And now I'm very specifically highlighting that, and I could filter this down further where I could say it has to be Event ID 15 or 11 inside of there. And then now I also note sysmon operational, something just to kind of narrow the scope a little bit inside of there. Go give your rule name or rule a name inside of there, save it, and then you have this detection running in the future for you. But so let's go back again because I wanted to show, hey, you had all of these other logs you were collecting. Surely there was something that was letting you know those happening inside of the environment. So the next thing I did was like, let's go last 30 days. Let's look at everything that I had inside the environment and let's just go drop sysmon from the equation inside of here. And the other thing I want to do is we're just going to go filter down on only this box right here. Let's go only filter. Actually, you know what? I don't even need to. If you see, if I look at desktop INI log, here's everything that I was collecting on that box. So what you're going to see right here, I'm collecting PowerShell logs. I'm collecting Windows security logs. I have, all kinds of different stuff on side of here. And if you go take a look, so here's when it originally happened. Before that, I have some Event ID 800s from the PowerShell logs, some 4104s looking at the PowerShell operational logs. But what these were is if I go open these up, these are simply me going and taking a look and seeing if I could go see the value that was being supplied inside those logs. So I was running a PowerShell command and saying, go get content. Let's go look at a couple more of these here. So you can kind of see, actually this one I was overwriting the file because I wanted to go see if I could blank out the results of it essentially. But this is just me going and looking at that desktop.ini file and I wanted to go see the values inside of there. So essentially set content, go look at that, or any other type of tool you would want to use to go essentially kind of view the value of that. But that's all that was coming up when I go run, essentially looking through all of my logs for desktop.ini log inside of here. It's just simply the PowerShell commands that I was running to go get the contents of that file. But nowhere in here whatsoever, even with all of that logging going on, there was no signs of this. So that I thought that was pretty interesting. So spot on, fine with that one, Brian. Really cool use case with this one. But the other thing I think that this really highlights that is really important here is that you can't rely on EDR alone. You can't rely on just out of the box rules inside of your platforms. There has to be active, essentially hunting going on inside of your environment and continued education as well. And that's why a lot of essentially managed MDR vendors, managed XDR vendors are really important. If you don't have the cycles, if you don't have the team and the resources to be able to go do this kind of continued education and subscribing to channels like Brian's and going and looking at like, hey, what's going on in the industry, or following Twitter and see what's going on with the current trends. There's a lot of ways to get around EDR, and you're just out of the box detections as well. So it's really important to have these. And so that's where a lot of these, like I said, managed services can really help out or bolt on top of, something that you already have to help out. So this was a really cool exercise inside of here. This one was really fun to do. Appreciate, Brian's work. And like I said, I'm going to share that inside of here, and I'm looking forward to doing more of these. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.